What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel, welcome to another Pokemon Sword and Shield VGC 2021 Series 10 video. Now before we get into the video, I want to say this. The school year for me, my final year in college, has just begun, so expect an occasional slowdown of videos if I ever get a little overwhelmed. I'll be sure to let you guys know, but just be a little bit understanding in case you don't see a video for a day or two. I should be able to keep a nice and organized schedule though, so I don't know, it shouldn't happen too often. But yeah, this video is going to be about my top 5 new threats in Series 10. Of course, the Series 10 official season is about halfway done, but I wanted to actually, not halfway done, but like the first season of ladder of Series 10 is about halfway done. But I wanted to make a video talking about 5 Pokemon that weren't necessarily very threatening in previous formats that especially shine in Series 10. Like these 5 Pokemon I consider new threats. They're not new Pokemon, but they're new threats. And that's just because the conditions of the metagame have caused them to rise in usage and become extremely useful. So yeah, if you guys enjoy this at any point in time, do me a favor, leave a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because I bring you daily Pokemon Sword and Shield VGC content. And answer my comment question of the day: what Pokemon do you believe is a new threat in this metagame? Let me know, and yeah, let's shoot for 200 likes and let's get into it. So at the bottom of my list, and this is ordered by the way, I do consider this an ordered list. Strangely enough, I almost never do that. At the bottom of my list, at number 5, is Galarian Zapdos. Now, Galarian Zapdos was a Pokemon that we all knew would eventually be good. All it took was for Dynamax to go away. The reason it wasn't quite as useful in previous formats was because Thundurus' higher speed tier and greater coverage, while having, you know, like physical electric moves, actually made it a bit better. Just because that higher speed tier made it have a faster max airstream, and it also still had fighting coverage and the Defiant ability, meaning that it was still a good enough Incineroar check. It was able to take that Intimidate and just boost its attack stat with the Defiant ability and just be threatening. Galarian Zapdos, on the other hand, shines a lot more in non-Dynamax format because Thundurus does not have access to any physical flying moves outside of Fly, where Galarian Zapdos actually has quite a few options. You could run Drill Peck if you really wanted to, but I don't recommend it. Mainly what you're going to be running is Brave Bird, and its selection in fighting moves is actually pretty big. You can go with Low Kick, which is a phenomenal move for hitting some of the more powerful and heavy restricted Pokemon in the format like Kyogre or Groudon, and that's only if you want to consistently hit those without lowering your defenses. But I do think that close combat overall is your best bet. Mainly Galarian Zapdos will be able to one-shot Pokemon like Incineroar, as well as with a Defiant boost, obviously it just takes chunks out of pretty much everything in the format. And its high speed tier at 100 is pretty nice for a restricted format, or at least it used to be. Honestly, like it would have been a lot higher if things like Zacian and Calyrex didn't exist. However, prior to this year, a lot of restricted Pokemon actually capped out at around 90, 99 speed, so having 100 was actually really huge for it. It does have access to a lot of other useful tools. I actually tend to run Taunt on my set because it's great for stopping Trick Room. And you can also run other nice moves for getting out of things like Gothitelle traps by running U-turn, or you can just run some kind of coverage move. Like I actually have seen some running Stomping Tantrum, and occasionally I actually will see one running Throat Chop, but typically it's going to be like Detect, U-turn, Brave Bird, Close Combat, or they might swap out a U-turn for Taunt. And generally, you're going to want to run a Focus Sash with this guy because it's not really a big fan of Regieleki. Getting Volt Switched on by Regieleki is really annoying. And if you can just Detect on that first turn where Fake Out is likely, and then just tank the electric move with your Focus Sash, generally speaking, Galarian Zapdos is going to be extremely useful in just about every single game, mainly for staving off Intimidates from powerful physical attackers in your team, like your Stack Attacka, like your Necrozma Duskmane, or like your Zacian. I usually tend to run this thing with Necrozma Duskmane just because it checks 2 of the things that are actually most threatening Necrozma Duskmane, that being the Volcarona and Incineroar that you tend to see on Xerneas teams. And that's actually really nice for the matchup because Necrozma Duskmane already has a winning matchup versus Xerneas. And those 2 Pokemon are the main things standing in your way of a very clean game. So by running Galarian Zapdos in your team, you're actually able to check both of them pretty easily and just absolutely annihilate that matchup. So yeah, Zapdos at number 5 I feel pretty confident about. Next up at number 4 is going to be Volcarona. Volcarona didn't exactly shine in previous formats. It's always been pretty useful, but it was pretty overlooked. And I think the reason it's so useful right now is because of how well of a matchup it has against things like Zacian or Necrozma Duskmane, which isn't as common, obviously, but it's also able to do things like Whirlwind out Xerneas and tank a hit from Astro Barrage, what's it called? Calyrex Shadow. So yeah, it also has a lot of really useful tools. Obviously, this thing does have access to Will-O-Wisp, but generally speaking, you're going to be better off running other support moves with Flame Body on it. Flame Body giving it a 30% chance to burn means that unless they're running something like Protected Pads Urshifu, you might actually be able to tank a hit from that thing. Other moves it has access to, Struggle Bug is great for lowering the special attack of opposing special attackers, obviously like Xerneas, which you can also just kind of wall out, but you're also naturally faster than Pokemon like Kyogre, which will allow you to Struggle Bug on them. I wouldn't recommend staying in, obviously, but if you really need to, that's fine. String Shot is also a very underrated tool that this Pokemon has. It lowers both of the opponent's speed stats by 2, which is absolutely insane. It's an insanely useful speed control move that I think if more Pokemon got, would be ran a lot more often. Like, it's pretty much better Electro Web. It doesn't deal damage, but you're going to be lowering their speed stats by 2 stages. You just cut them in half. So that's awesome. Like I said, Whirlwind is also a very useful tool, but generally speaking, just other moves it can run. Quiver Dance and Heat Wave are a deadly combination because you're going to be able to boost your already sky-high base 135 special attack and base 100 speed by 1 stage each, and then just hit everything with a Heat Wave. And nothing really likes taking a +1 Heat Wave from Volcarona, even if it isn't heavily invested into. So yeah, Volcarona, a very threatening Pokemon. Feel comfortable putting that thing at number 4. Number 3 on this list is going to be Zarina. Now, Zarina has always been a phenomenal Pokemon, but the amount it shines has always been not quite as high as it has been in this format. This format is the format for Zarina. Why is that? And that's because it fits perfectly onto the Torn Ogre team archetype. So, Rillaboom is arguably one of the greatest grass types ever made, if not the greatest grass type ever made. It has every tool it needs to be successful in VGC. It's got Fake Out, Knock Off, U-Turn. It even has Bulldoze for like speed control, and Grassy Glide with Grassy Surge allows it a very powerful priority move with a power boost to it that lets it one-shot Kyogre. So what are your options for getting around this? Well, one, you could just use your Tornadus to 2-shot an Assault Vest Rillaboom with Hurricane, but even that isn't necessarily the best play a lot of the times. What you can do is actually run Zarina. With its Queenly Majesty ability, it's able to block all priority moves coming out from your opponent's side without any need of like Psychic Terrain or anything. It also has it has really great bulk, 72 HP, 98 defenses, like that's amazing. Has a decent speed tier at 72. And 120 attack is like phenomenal. Like, it's very rare we see a Pokemon this well balanced across the board stat wise that isn't legendary. Like, if you added 10 onto each one of these stats, it would most certainly be like a legendary Pokemon. So yeah, it's like a very min-max Pokemon that's extremely useful, but it also has access to a number of just phenomenal tools. I think the tool that matters the most for a lot of people is going to be that triple axle, because it actually doesn't only allow it to switch in on Rillaboom and block its moves, but it also allows it to hit it for a very powerful, super effective move. Triple Axle, of course, increasing in power every time you hit it, starting at 20 base power, is an Ice-type move that deals a decent amount of damage. This thing also gets access to U-Turn for mind games and pivoting, just allowing you to get in and out on the field and be a nuisance and avoid all responsibility. I think that's the way Hamster Mania VGC put it on his channel. He said Zarina is able to be useful while avoiding all responsibility in terms of taking hits because of that U-Turn. Your Trop Kick is also a pretty great and I think an underrated move. A lot of people opt to run Power Whip for the extra power, but I think that if you're already running a support Zarina, Trop Kick is phenomenal because you can run like just a super supportive set, like just dropping the attack stat with 100% accuracy. And the fact that Grassy Terrain is probably going to be on the field anyways means that this is about as strong as a Grassy Glide, just with no priority. But speaking of Grassy Glide, it also gets that in case you want to make sure you double down on being an absolute Rillaboom counter that will allow you to take advantage of opposing Grassy Terrain getting set up and just dealing a ton of damage. This thing used to have access to Feint, which would have been phenomenal in this format, but I think since it doesn't have Feint, you can go ahead and settle for something really awesome like High Jump Kick. You're mostly running an Assault Vest on this thing anyway, so 4 attack moves is perfectly fine. And High Jump Kick, if unintimidated, will be dealing a massive amount of damage to things like Incineroar and Stack Attacka. So yeah, Zarina has absolutely everything it needs to be successful in this format, and it's one of my favorites. I think number 3 is a great place for it on the list. Next up at number 2, we have Landorus Incarnate. It has been a while since, I don't even know if it was ever legal, really. I don't remember that far back in VGC history. I started in 2015, but as far as I've been playing VGC, this thing has never been legal, and I understand why now. It has access to Sheer Force now that we have access to ability capsules. Of course, Sheer Force is its hidden ability, as normally it would have Sand Force, but Sheer Force comboed with a Life Orb and moves like Earth Power and Sludge Bomb and I guess Rock Slide if you really wanted to, allow you to run a threatening mixed attack around this guy. It's got incredible stats across the board: 89 HP, 125 attack, 90 defense, 115 special attack, 80 special defense, and 101 speed. That 101 speed is actually crucial because a lot of Pokemon hit 100 in this format, and given the proper speed control, this thing can one-shot so many Pokemon. Xerneas absolutely hates taking a Sheer Force Life Orb Sludge Bomb from this thing. It won't always kill, but it definitely hates that. Rock Slide or Stone Edge is phenomenal for hitting Pokemon like Ho-Oh, Incineroar, Entei notably is a big one. That is insane. Obviously, you know, you're going to Earth Power the Entei, but you catch my drift there. Like, if anything wants to switch in on it, it's not going to be able to. And obviously, its main stab of Earth Power is going to be able to hit everything like a truck. Zacian gets absolutely annihilated by that. Eternatus, if you run into that, gets absolutely annihilated. There are very few Pokemon in this format that get hit super effective by this move that can survive it. I think one of the notable ones is Necrozma Duskmane, and even then you actually have to calc for that. So that's like insanely strong. This Pokemon absolutely needs speed control, but if you get this thing in on at the right time in the game, or next to the right Pokemon, like if you have a Regieleki next to it, it's going to be taking KOs left and right. This thing is a monster in the format, and it's super difficult for a lot of teams to deal with. Generally speaking, like, Rillaboom can two-shot this thing with a Grassy Glide, but even then, you're going to have to take a Sludge Bomb in exchange. It's not fun, right? But yeah, I think that Landorus is insanely strong, and putting it at number 2 just makes absolute sense. And my number 1 might be surprising for a lot of you, but I genuinely think this is one of the greatest Pokemon in the format, and I'm really glad it actually can take the spot because it's been a while since this thing has seen heavy usage. That is Mienshao at number 1. Mienshao getting access to Inner Focus, on face value, it's like, you know, it's whatever, but in Gen 8, they buffed Inner Focus to the point where it's probably one of the best abilities in the game. You are immune to Intimidate, you are immune to Fake Out, or any kind of flinch, but mostly Fake Out, that's the one that matters. Mienshao's high attack and high speed stat allow it to be one of the most threatening Pokemon in the format on lead because it has a strong, fast Fake Out, and it has access to close combat, which can one-shot a lot of common Pokemon, like Stakataka, and most importantly, like Incineroar. Mienshao has made a name for itself, specifically on Calyrex Shadow teams, because of how perfect of a combo it is for Calyrex Shadow. Being able to take care of the pretty much like the premier Calyrex Shadow Rider check in Incineroar is such a phenomenal use for it. But not only that, but it has access to insanely powerful support moves. I think the two main ones that I want to take a look at, I guess on top of Fake Out since I already mentioned it, are going to be Wide Guard and Feint. Generally speaking, the set that you're going to see on Mienshao is going to be Fake Out, Wide Guard, Close Combat, Feint with a Focus Sash. And that's just because it's effective. It's simple, it's effective, and the only stab move you really need on this thing is going to be Close Combat because of how powerful it is at 120 base power. And you don't really care about lowering your defenses because they're already really low and you're already going to be running a Focus Sash. Fake Out isn't really necessarily a concern, mainly because your Fake Out will go first in a lot of situations, and it's just super, super annoying to play against. A lot of people will forget about the access to Wide Guard because it doesn't look like it has access to Wide Guard. Like, at face value, Pokemon that you think about having Wide Guard are wide Pokemon, like, I guess Swampert, like Stakataka. You think of those things, right? This thing having access to Wide Guard can turn a game around in like one single turn. If the Kyogre goes for a Water Spout against the Mienshao and Calyrex Shadow Rider lead, even if it has Tailwind up, even though it threatens a double KO right there, if they don't think about Wide Guard being an option, it is absolutely over for them. They're going to have to eat an Astral Barrage, and then on the next turn, they aren't doing as much, and then you just go for the KO. It is super powerful. Feint Mind Games are also insanely annoying because if you're playing against Tornadus Kyogre, a lot of the time what they will do is they will go for a Protect and a Tailwind, even though like they can technically Prankster Tailwind and get the immediate speed boost, they're going to want to Protect because they don't want to get faked out. Calling them predicting your Fake Out, you can actually go for a Feint and absolutely annihilate them with whatever Pokemon you have next to it. This thing has so much utility in the format, and even if you don't want to run Feint, it still has access to U-Turn. U-Turn is great for pivoting in and out, and it does have good coverage moves. It does have access to things like Poison Jab. It does have access to I guess, Drain Punch or Blaze Kick if you really wanted to, but the thing that you're looking at here, the main moves you're looking at are going to be the Wide Guard, Feint, Fake Out, Close Combat. This Pokemon is insanely powerful, and I'm actually really glad it's being used right now. So yeah, my number one pick for top new threat in the format is going to be Mienshao. But let me know what you guys think about these Pokemon in the comment section down below. Do you think something else deserved to be on this list? I mean, you could say Regieleki is a top new threat since it only existed for a couple of formats, but it's been good it's been good since it's been released. These Pokemon have risen in usage to these spots. So yeah, let me know in the comment section. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.